Thank you. Thank you very much. And welcome to Cats and Dogs here on Press TV with me, Lembit Öpik. And we begin by going to the world's highest nation. No, not Nepal. It's Canada. Now, you might ask, how did Canada get so high? Well, I'll tell you. Recently, a Canadian biosciences company called Sunshine Earth Labs proudly announced it had been licensed to possess, produce, sell and distribute the mind-altering drug cocaine. For Canada, think of the advertising potential, though. Looking for a fresh start? A whole lot of people are coming to Canada. It's so addictive. Now, following the decriminalisation of hard drugs in beautiful British Columbia, this new policy might make Canada into an amazing new altered state. See what I did there? Now, here's an interesting fact. Did you know Sunshine Earth Labs received their licence to thrill a mere 2 months after applying for it? That means in Canada, it takes 1/3 the time to get a licence to produce hard drugs than it does to get a passport. Seriously. Now, congratulations must go to Mr. Trudeau, who critics say in one fell swoop has turned Canada into the narco state of the North. I want to cut the red tape. Anywho, I want to help all manufacturers and distributors and dealers who can help this nation see itself in a totally different way. So why is this even happening? All this is Ottawa's bid to improve what it calls safety conditions for the country's addicts. But what might the next step be? Ladies and gentlemen, for the safety of terrorists in Canada, the Canadian government will supply them with approved bombs to end the dangerous practice of working with homemade and unregulated improvised explosive devices. But what about other addicts? What about crack users and crystal meth addicts? It's a clear case of addiction discrimination. While some argue that Trudeau must be off his head to go for drugs and easier access to opioids instead of easier access to treatment and recovery programs, others ask, who might be allowed to manufacture cocaine next? Why not do what you do in any other manufacturing sector and go for the experienced professionals, like, for example, biosciences companies belonging to Mexican cartels, or maybe Italian mafias? I'm a big entrepreneur. You can call me Don, and I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Or, hey, Mr. Trudeau, Pablo here. I'd like to set up a new South American chain in your land. Okay, Pablo, what's it called? I call it Cocaine Bell. Another plus is higher employment and lower crime, as Canada's drug dealers leave the streets to become senior executives in sales and distribution departments of biosciences companies. Into drugs, start a career in Escobar Inc.'s Canada division and get higher than you ever imagined. As Canada legalizes cocaine, what might the headlines be to go with the white lines? Come to Canada. You'll just never get enough. Don't waste time looking for drugs. Get them real quick in beautiful British Columbia. Sunshine Earth Labs. Can't quit? Now you don't need to. Here's our number. It's official. Canada has no more addicts, only consumers. Now, someone else who's had trouble getting high, but in a different way, is Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. The pilots of Israel's national airline, El Al, left the Prime Minister and his wife, Sarah, high and dry after no one volunteered to fly them to Rome for a state visit in Italy. Then, at the last moment, anonymous sources close to El Al announced that they had finally found a crew to fly the Netanyahu couple out to Italy after all. Watch this. Now, presumably that pilot's Canadian, but I digress. The El Al pilots were reportedly refusing to fly the couple over anger about the coalition's radical judicial overhaul plans. These caused widespread opposition, with hundreds of thousands demonstrating nationwide against them. Critics warned the proposals would undermine Israel's democracy, economy and security. Again, or is that more, or even still? It depends how much you've been paying attention over the last 50 years. Anyway, El Al denied the Netanyahu no-fly zone was political, citing a shortage of pilots qualified to fly the Boeing 777, a huge aircraft the Netanyahus were apparently insisting on. A pilot shortage? Really? But there's another theory. They're worried that ex-military El Al pilots have trained for a specific mission so many times that when they land and open the door, Netanyahu will discover that he hasn't landed in Rome, he's landed in Tehran instead. Back in Europe, Latvia has begun confiscating cars from drunk drivers and sending them to Ukraine under a new scheme designed to help Kiev. This could set a popular precedent. Maybe they'll send the car owners too in order to go and fight them. In the UK, they crushed some illegal cars. Can't we send those to Ukraine as well? And what about illegal immigrants? Why not fly them to Ukraine? It's closer than Rwanda, so they'd save loads on jet fuel. And how about the homeless? Ukraine's got bunkers and loads of empty buildings. But unlike Britain, no food crisis. After all, Ukraine's the breadbasket of Europe. So if they do run out of salad, like the UK did, they'll still have bread and those tasty wheat-based snacks. Who else can we send to Ukraine? All the other troublemakers, striking teachers, striking nurses, striking rail staff. In fact, everyone who's on strike, or just annoying. In which case, how about we send Harry and Meghan too? Now that could swing the war. All the Ukrainians need to do is get loudspeakers to amplify Meghan's voice. Okay, Zelensky, we surrender. Just turn down the volume on all that woman's complaining. While the West is preoccupied with helping Ukraine, the country's president was preoccupied with the Oscars. But to his dismay, Zelensky's bid to show up at the Academy Awards was turned down for the second year in a row. In the past year, the comedian turned politician has appeared via satellite link during the Grammy Awards and Golden Globes and at film festivals like Cannes and Berlin. And why not? If Will Smith isn't there to slap Jimmy Kimmel in the face, the only other entertainment has to be Zelensky or a speech by Boris Johnson about not having parties and Peppa Pig World. Thinking about it, actually, Zelensky should have attended to receive an award himself. Ladies and gentlemen, the Oscar for the Best Actor in a film from the directors of the disaster movie trilogy, Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, is Mr. Zelensky for his starring role in The Comedian.
The Comedian, from the directors of Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, and the producers of World Conflicts, a film by Sleepy Joe. Based on a novel by Zbigniew Brzezinski. The USA, in association with the UK, Canada, France, and Germany. Production designer, the Pentagon. Executive producer, the European Union. The Comedian, in theaters now.
This year, and perhaps because of the absence of real violence, in other words, because Will Smith wasn't on stage, the Oscars didn't seem all that exciting. But all is not lost. Rumour has it that the makers of Western Foreign Policy, the motion picture, are determined to keep one drama going until they finally win something. Yes, the war in Ukraine, that has cost even more than Avatar 2, is set to have more episodes than Rocky and more plot lines than Game of Thrones. The only difference is that, unlike the Oscars, in Ukraine, Will Smith could hit anyone he likes and he wouldn't expect criticism, he'd expect a medal. That's all for this week. Join me again next time to see who's winning awards for drugs policy, who's winning awards for sending things to Ukraine, and who's winning Oscars for getting billions out of Biden. That's all on Press TV with me, Lembit Öpik, and Cats and Dogs.